Hi everybody, I am currently 16 days postpartum and I'm here to tell you about my birth story. It didn't go at all to plan, in the slightest.
You done?
But I have given birth to a very healthy, happy little girl called Luna Dee. We're keeping her off social media so she won't be in the video, but she is the most beautiful little creature I've ever laid eyes upon. And I know I'm biased, but I swear she's the prettiest baby I've ever seen. But anyway, on with the birth story. So my labour started at about 5 AM. I woke up having contractions. They were a little bit like the cramps that I'd been getting for the 3 weeks prior because I'd been in slow labour for about 3 weeks. Oh god, it's 4 AM. My cramps are coming every 10 minutes. I just can't cope with it. It's 2:30 AM. Ow! I don't know what to do. She said my cervix wasn't dilated at all. I just feel so drained. I just don't want to do it anymore. I can't keep doing this. I just feel like I'm in pain all the time. I just feel like I have no energy in my body at all. So at this point, around 5 AM, I was still kind of floating in and out of sleep, getting woken up by the cramps when they came. They were kind of every half an hour, 20 minutes. As it went on, I started to feel really sick and like I really needed to go to the toilet. So I went to the bathroom at about 6:20 and I just sat on the toilet and had my head over the sink. At about 7:45, my contractions started to get more painful. So I think this is where they sort of went from period cramp pain to early labour contraction pain. But they were still coming 20 minutes apart at this point. It's currently 8 AM and I feel like I'm desperately going to be sick. But I just managed to empty my bowels and I happened to glance into the toilet and I noticed there was blood. I don't know if it happened in the night. I don't know if it happened with one of my contractions. I don't know if it happened when I emptied my bowels. But it definitely feels like a lot more pain, a lot. I feel sick from it. Still going every 20 minutes, 26 minutes, 23 minutes, 20 minutes, and they're all extremely painful. So my contractions have dropped down to around every 5 minutes apart. They're painful. I seem to get, though, a really painful one and then a slightly less painful one. And that one, I think, was the slightly less painful one. Which means that in about 5 minutes, I'll likely get the painful one. I think it's coming. That was only 3.5 minutes from the last one. Maybe I should phone the hospital. I left my husband in bed because I had had so many false starts of labour for the past 3 weeks. I was like, I don't want to get our hopes up and have it drop off again. So I waited it out to see if they would become more frequent or more painful, which they did. And at 9 AM, they were getting really painful. So I woke Mason up and I phoned the hospital. They asked me if I was happy just labouring at home, taking things as they came, or whether I wanted them to send a midwife out to monitor me and guide me through the process. I said, no, I'm quite happy just it being me and my husband at the moment. I felt very relaxed and didn't feel the need to have any disturbance. I feel like any disturbance would have dropped everything off again. They asked me about the blood. They said they don't think that's a worry because it was such a small amount, but to keep an eye on if I lose any more. And they also advised me to make sure I was eating because I hadn't eaten all morning because I felt so sick. But they said I need to keep my energy up, and that was really difficult because I really did not want to eat. So I managed, I think, 1 Weetabix. By 10 AM, my contractions would come in every 3 to 4 minutes and were a lot more painful.
This is what the contractions are looking like. think when this gets down to 3 minutes, then we're going to call them and say, come out.
I was audibly whining and wincing through them, but in between them I was totally fine. I was completely normal. It was just when a contraction came I was just like and I always thought I'd be the person who would have a nice quiet labour, because I'm not like, I don't think I'm dramatic, but I practiced all of my hypnobirthing techniques and I was like, I'll breathe through it. Oh my god. The reality couldn't have been more different. I noticed at this point as well, whenever I got a contraction, I would leak a bit of discharge. Now it was just clear white discharge, there was no blood. I also noticed that my belly started to look smaller. At 10:25, I got a really intense contraction and I was hanging onto the dining table, squatting on the end, and I felt myself leak discharge again, and I didn't have any tissue with me because I'd been catching everything in tissue at this point. Felt it all completely run through my hand, looked at the floor and the floor was wet. So my waters have just gone. So I've just been sat on the toilet for about 10 minutes and it's trickled. It's not gushed. Had a bit of a bloody show in it as well. But we found the midwife. Midwife should be coming soon. She's just at another appointment.
Sorry about the noise.
So we're setting the pool up. Oh, no. Oh.
Doing great, mate.
I feel sick. Oh.
If you need to be sick, we've got that bucket.
Yeah. I still felt like I could manage everything at this point. I was still completely fine in between contractions. I wasn't exhausted. The midwives arrived at about 11 a.m. They checked baby's heart rate. Everything was totally fine. Now, frustratingly, once the midwives arrived, my contractions dropped off. And they went to kind of every 5 to 10 minutes apart again. And I could talk through them. They were painful still, but they were bearable. Oh dear! I felt like I was making a mockery of myself because I phoned up in so much pain. And then they turned up and I was totally fine. And they said it's totally normal. It happens every time because the body goes into stress mode when you've gone from being in a relaxed state to someone else, like a stranger, turning up to your peaceful environment. Anyway, the longer they were here, I relaxed more, and it got to about 11:45 and everything had gone really intense again and I was wincing through the pain. So they put the TENS machine on my back and we tried the birthing comb. The TENS machine was not what I expected at all. I thought it'd be like a vibration thing. It was more like an electric shock pulsing thing. I didn't like it, but I stuck with it because I was like, okay, it might be doing something. I could not get to grips with the birthing comb at all. I couldn't get it to sit comfortably in my hand. It just didn't feel like it was doing anything, and that really annoyed me because I really wanted to use the comb. I had planned for a totally unmedicated birth and the birthing comb was on my list of pain relief, but I stuck with the TENS machine. 15 minutes or so later, the midwife said, you aren't progressing all that fast. Are you happy for us to go and leave you to it? We can come back once your contractions have dropped down to 2 to 3 minutes apart. And I said, that's fine. If you guys want to shoot off, get some lunch, go for it. And literally as soon as they went out the door, my contractions just went whoo and intensified, and I was in so much pain. I don't know.
We're at about 3 minutes now. Wow.
At 12:45, I started losing a bit more of my waters, a bit more of my bloody show, so I went back up to the bathroom. About 2 o'clock, we decided, let's run a hot bath and just see if it eases some of my pain or maybe kind of helps things along. My contractions were speeding up slowly. I think I was about 3 minutes apart. I took some paracetamol at this point as well. This was the first bit of medication pain relief that I'd had since 5 o'clock that morning. Once I got in the bath, everything kind of sped up a little bit and I got down to I think 2.5 minutes apart with my contractions. The pain was just unbelievable. I had a sick bucket with me and I was throwing up in the sick bucket every time I got a contraction. Poor Mason was retching as he's holding my sick bucket. I didn't know at this point if I needed to push or not, but it felt like something was getting ready to come out. So we phoned back the midwives at 2:30 and we said, can you come back? Things have intensified. They arrived shortly after 3 p.m. and they brought with them the gas and air, which I had on my pain relief list as like my max option of pain relief. So I was on the gas and air in the bath.
She's moving into it. It's okay, breathe, just relax. Oh, she's a little monkey.
So the midwives started to monitor my belly because baby was going crazy, but they did comment on baby's heart rate.
So it's obviously quite fast at the moment. Baby's heart rate. It's when she's not moving, you can hear where the baseline is.
So baby's heart rate was getting dangerously high. They said it could be to do with how much she's moving, but we need to settle her down in order to know that. So they encouraged me to get out the bath and go into the bedroom and lie down on the bed and see if that would settle baby.
All right, sweetie.
They continued to monitor baby. I continued to throw up all over myself. It got to 4:30, 5 o'clock, and they said, we're really sorry, we're gonna have to phone an ambulance and take you into hospital because baby's heart rate is dangerously high and it's not coming back down, and it would be negligent of us to ignore that and advise you to stay home. So they said, we'll take you into the hospital, we'll do the monitoring, make sure baby's okay. If everything is okay, you can always come back home and we can continue with the home birth, which I thought they were kind of just saying to make me feel better. So the ambulance arrived sometime around 5 o'clock, I think. And when I got in the ambulance, they said that baby's heart rate had actually dropped. So her heart rate now, I think, was around 120 beats per minute. And it should be around 150 beats per minute. So it had gone from being dangerously high to kind of worryingly low. The midwives did a cervical check on me and I was 3 centimeters dilated. So they said I wasn't in established labor yet, but the way that my contractions were going, it was like my body was. So they were a little bit concerned about how much energy I was using during my contractions. So at 6:30 p.m, after an hour and a half of continuing to labor in the hospital on just gas and air, they asked if I wanted to try Diamorphine, which would relax my body and help me kind of preserve my energy reserves a little bit more. Now, like I mentioned, I, in my head, had planned for a totally unmedicated birth. So I kind of didn't know what to do at this point. Like, do I take the pain relief? Do I not take the pain relief? But I was in so much pain, I couldn't have prepared myself for how much pain I was in.
Big breath in, mate.
Keep going, you're doing so good.
The good news now, when we go home, we can just get in that pool ourselves.
You've had a bit of drama. You thirsty, baby? It's okay.
Deep breaths, mate. Deep breaths, mate.
So I just said, just give me the pain relief. The Diamorphine lasted for about 4 hours and sent me totally sleepy in between my contractions. I was just completely knocked out by it.
Diamorphine's kicking in. Quiet as she's been all day.
Mason said on the machine that was monitoring my tummy, he could see when I was getting a contraction because my, I don't know, the cervix tension rating, I don't know what it's called, would start going up. And I would go from being like not even able to hold my gas and air from being so sleepy to suddenly he said he'd see my eyebrows go like this. And then once the meter got high enough, I would just wake up and yell. And then once it started dropping down on the machine again, he said I would literally just fall back asleep. So at least I got a little bit of rest on the Diamorphine. Baby's heart rate was still sky high though, and had started dropping when I got my contractions. It was kind of ranging from 200 beats per minute to 110 beats per minute.
You do a deep breath out as well and in. Right, deep breath out. Well done. That's it. Good job.
At 7:15, they said to Mason she really needs to eat something because she's getting very weak. So he tried to encourage me to eat a cereal bar, and my mouth was so dry from the gas and air, so I really struggled to eat. I think I had one bite of the cereal bar and I just couldn't swallow it. I just couldn't make any saliva at all. It was awful. So in the end, I think I resorted to just drinking milk, and that gave me a little bit more energy than just water. So I managed on that for the next 4 hours until the diamorphine wore off. At 11:15 at night, they did another cervical examination, which showed that I was still only 3 centimetres dilated, so my body hadn't progressed any further, but my contractions were still just as intense, if not more intense at this point. The diamorphine was starting to wear off, and I was in insane pain and absolutely exhausted.
Deep breath. Deep breath. Well done. Deep breaths. Deep breaths. That's it. Breathe out. Deep breath in. Deep, deep, deep. Nice. Well done. Come on.
They recommended that I had an epidural to, again, preserve my energy because I just hadn't eaten anything. I'd thrown up a lot. I'd lost a bit of blood as well through my contractions. I was laying on a puppy pad with a cardboard pot underneath me, catching all the blood, and they had to just keep emptying it. So at about 11:10, they fitted me with a cannula. I had literally like things in every part of me. They fitted me with a cannula. I don't know what they did with that, but I think they put some kind of pain relief in to prep for the epidural whilst they waited, I think, for the anaesthetist to be free. It was midnight when I finally saw the anaesthetist, and I had to sit upright on the bed. Mason held me and I rested my head into him. As soon as they started working on my back, Mason got a bit kind of dazed out by it and retched and felt really dizzy. So the anaesthetist just said, go and get some fresh air, we'll sort Sam out. So Mason left and I was just with the midwife and anaesthetist. So I got my epidural done around midnight. I think it took 20 minutes to get the epidural done because I kept contracting, and they can't proceed with the procedure whilst I was contracting because I needed to be really, really still and upright. It took a little while to kick in, I think. I can't remember, to be honest. I think it did. But Mason made a note that at 1:45, the epidural was in full effect. So at this point, I think I was in, what would I have been in labour for? 12? I must have been in labour for like 18 hours, 19 hours at this point. The epidural worked like a treat. I was able to relax. I could still feel the contractions through the epidural, but bearably, and that was a godsend. They asked if I wanted oxytocin to see if that would encourage my cervix to dilate a bit more because I was still stuck at 3 centimetres, and I just said, yeah, let's just try and get anything going. But when they came to do the drip, they said, we can't actually give you the drip because baby's heart rate is still too high, it's too dangerous. So we couldn't have the oxytocin. They'd also taken some of my blood, I think, through my cannula, and my blood test had indicated that there might have been a sign of infection, which they think might have been impacting baby's heart rate. They did another cervical examination at about 2:30, which showed that I was about 5 centimetres dilated. So I'd progressed a little bit, but I still hadn't progressed enough to be able to push. But this now classed me as in established labour, and they were getting very, very concerned for baby's welfare. So at 3:15, the consultant surgeon, I don't know what she was, she came in and she talked to me and she said, it's looking like we're going to need to perform a cesarean on you because of the results we're getting from baby and from your blood results, because we can see now that your body is using a lot of its reserves and things aren't going great basically. And I really didn't want a C-section. That was like my last resort. I would have done anything to have avoided a C-section. So I said, okay, what else can we do? Is there anything else we can do? And they said, well, we can put you on an antibiotic drip, and if you have got an infection, it may calm baby down. You may be able to progress naturally. So I say, okay, give me the antibiotics, let's try it. So around 3:15, they put me on the antibiotic drip. Unfortunately, it made no difference whatsoever. Baby's heart rate stayed the same, I stayed the same. So at 4 a.m, the consultant lady came back in and she said, it could be another 20 hours before you progress enough to be able to birth her naturally because of the rate of your cervix dilation and the reserves that are left in your body to kind of help you through that. And if you do progress down that route, it's very dangerous because you don't have the reserves and because your baby's blood is starting to turn acidic, which we found out later is very dangerous for baby. It means they can kind of suffocate if they don't get enough oxygen in their blood. So she said, you're going to have to really have a C-section, and I just burst out crying. I didn't want a C-section at all, but that was the route that we had to go down in order to save baby and me. And so at 4:15, they wheeled us down into theatre, upped my epidural and started doing the surgery.
What are you feeling now?
I can feel touch.
Yeah, touch is normal, but no pain, okay?
If there's any pain, mate, you just say and we'll stop, yeah?
Yeah, so I'm going to be standing here behind your head all the time.
Okay.
You're doing fantastic, my love. Absolutely fantastic. You're done now. This is it. You're finished. You're finished. There's nothing left to do.
Congratulations.
Here she is, mate. That was quick. There you go. Finished.
Now, when I got the epidural boost, I don't know if they did it too strong for me, because I noticed whilst I was lying in theatre that I couldn't feel my left arm and I couldn't move my hand. My arm's gone numb.
That's fine. Good. Means it's right up there, eh? It's right up there.
My arm's numb. Eh?
Arm's numb.
Your arm?
That's all right.
So I couldn't feel my legs and I couldn't feel my left arm, and I said to the anaesthetist, when he said it's probably just how you've been lying, it'll come back to feeling very soon. I was like, I don't think it is. It doesn't feel like when you lie funny on something and you get like pins and needles and numbness. It doesn't feel like that. I can't use my hand. I was trying to bend my fingers and I couldn't. At the start of the surgery, I could just about move my hand. I had no feeling in it. By the end of the surgery, I couldn't even move my hand at all. So when they finally announced that baby was born, I was so detached from the situation, and I wanted this moment to be like the most euphoric thing. I had this image in my head of you know, giving birth in the pool and holding my baby and having this golden hour of just skin to skin contact, and I had none of that at all. I had them hold baby up in front of me and I couldn't hold baby because my arm was numb. And so after she was born, Mason then took her off, did all the cord cutting and sorting her out, and I just kind of lay there like a lifeless zombie, and I felt so removed from the situation. It was just, I found it really traumatic and difficult.
It's all done, mate. It's all done.
She's great, isn't she? She's great.
Well done. Well done, mate. You're all finished.
Well done, Sam.
Perfect song for you, mate, as well. Well done. Well done, mate. You're done. You're finished.
They wheeled us into the recovery room. They helped me breastfeed. They rested baby on my limp arm and I managed to feed her, which I was quite surprised by because I didn't think I'd be able to after not being able to make any colostrum in advance of the birth, but at least I managed to breastfeed her. It had been about 24 hours of labour by this time and I was completely exhausted. I could barely keep my eyes open. They brought out some toast and milk. Couldn't eat the toast because my mouth was so dry still from the gas and air, so I still hadn't eaten anything. I managed some milk though. So baby was born about 4:30. They kept us then in the recovery room I think until about 6:30 whilst the midwives did all of their paperwork and everything else, and they told us then as well that based on the blood results from baby's cord that it was a good job that we did do the cesarean when we did, because there were signs in baby's blood that she was very in distress and her blood had turned very acidic, so there wasn't much oxygen in it. My urine and blood samples had shown that I had a high level of ketones, which meant that my body had used up all its energy and was kind of like eating into its backup reserves. So I just kind of felt like a failure, and all of this was just replaying in my mind. And Mason was brilliant, and he kept kind of reminding me that, you know, you sacrificed what you wanted from your home birth in order to save our baby.
We couldn't have had it any other way, my mate. We couldn't have had it any other way. This is how it's happened, and it's perfect, okay?
Yeah.
It's perfect, yeah?
And I know that's the right way to look at it, but I felt like I've grieved my dream birth every day since, and I found it very, very difficult to come to terms with. But it's just the way things had to happen, unfortunately. So when they finally wheeled me out of the recovery room onto the ward, they said, we really need you to do some skin to skin with baby if you can. I couldn't keep my eyes open at this point. I was literally just like this. And I said, I can't hold baby because I will drop her. I don't have the ability to keep my eyes open. And they said, if you can, even if you just do a little bit, it's going to benefit baby. And I felt so guilty because I hadn't held my baby since she'd been born, other than to breastfeed her in the recovery room. And even then I had the midwife helping me hold her to do it. And I thought, how can I be so detached from my baby? I wanted this euphoric moment so badly, and now I'm turning down the opportunity to hold her. But I just didn't have the strength, I didn't have the capacity in me to do it, and I just felt unsafe. But I tried really hard, and I think I managed 10 minutes. I had kind of rested her on my numb arm whilst I was laying down, and I was using this hand to literally be like this, and I was reading all the text on all the machinery around me to try and keep my brain awake and active, and I just couldn't. And I had a buzzer on my bed that I had to use to ring the nurses, and I just had to buzz the nurses, and I just said, look, you're gonna have to take her, I'm really sorry, I can't physically do it. And I didn't even have the energy to cry, but I just wanted to cry. But we've had the most amazing relationship since, and I've had so much amazing bonding time with her that it's made up for it, and I know it's just coming to terms with that birth. That's what I need to do now. The recovery from the C-section has been difficult. I was in hospital for 3 days. I probably could have stayed in longer than that, but I kind of wanted to get home as well and recover at home. I was in a hell of a lot of pain. I felt like I was splitting open every time I moved, like someone had a chainsaw to me. It still sometimes feels like that now. Yesterday I just kept bleeding, so it's not fun. And one of the reasons why I didn't want a C-section, because of the recovery time. Because again, I couldn't lift baby out of her cot when she was crying, and it's just not what I wanted. But alas, that's just how things had to happen. So my lovely unmedicated planned home water birth did not go to plan in the slightest. I had every medication under the sun. I was in hospital for 3 days, and I ended up having a cesarean. It's totally the opposite of my birth plan, but we welcomed a very healthy, very beautiful, very happy little baby into the world, and we could not be happier. We're absolutely over the moon and completely in love. I've almost forgotten the whole thing, and I want another 10 babies. But there we go. Things don't always go to plan, but c'est la vie. Thank you for watching, and thank you for keeping up with my whole pregnancy journey. I don't know if I'll make any more videos because we don't want to put baby on social media, but I'm quite happy to talk about my cesarean or my recovery or living with a newborn. If you would be interested in that, I don't know, leave a comment. We'll see what happens. Thank you for watching. See you soon. Bye!